everybody involved, including Liv Morgan, who I was very curious to get her back on TV and see what they were going to do with her, until I actually saw what they were going to do with her. Liv Morgan did come out during the match between Lashley and Rusev, and Lana splashed soda in her face that she grabbed out of the hands of a planted fan in the front row. I watched that, and they showed the slow-mo on replay, which was kind of hilarious to see Liv's real-time reaction to being splashed in the face with this soda, or diet soda, whatever it was. That shit is sticky. I don't envy her having to clean all that sticky stuff off her face and out of her hair. That's a bitch to get out for a lady. But anyway, Lashley pinned Rusev. What am I talking about? Lashley pinned Rusev with a spear. I was thinking of Rob Van Dam again on it. Tomorrow night on Raw, it's going tomorrow night. I think it's Sunday. I'm so conditioned to doing the show on Sundays. I think it's Sunday. I don't know what fucking day of the week it is. I hope it's not Sunday. I'm supposed to be on a fun day. Let me check my phone. Let me make sure. Yes, it's Saturday. Thank God. Holy shit. Was that a heart attack? Monday night. It's going to be Rusev and Liv against Lashley and Lana. I'm very sad I'm going to be away and I won't be able to watch this. Frankly, I'm kind of devastated. I'm pretty torn apart by this. But I'll go. The fist fight main event turned out to be kind of fun. And chaotic. Even though there was actually fist fight people. The rules of the match ends when one team is unable to continue. So basically, last man standing with whoever can count. It was Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, Big Show, against Seth Rollins and AOP. The highlight of this match was Kevin Owens being the first person to make use of that new curved stage, that curved video set that they have. And he had himself a little skater boy, Darby Allin moment here. He went running up the curved screen and did a dive out onto the floor where AOP was. Samoa Joe did a running set onto her table and the announce table. I say off the stage. And you gotta remember, the stage these days is not nearly as tall as it was 20 years ago. It's not as impressive, but it was still a pretty cool looking spot. For one of the AOP guys laid out on the announce table. And then Joe does a running set on off the ramp, off the stage, down to the table. So later on, Seth Rollins falls out of the ring, and he ends up right next to Buddy Murphy. You might be saying, Buddy Murphy? What the fuck is Buddy Murphy doing now? Buddy Murphy, after his loss to Aleister Black, was sitting on the outside up against the barricade. And it was almost like he was in a trance. He has lost every single match that he has had with Aleister Black. And he just lost it. He lost his mind. He couldn't believe it. He looked like the saddest person. He was out there the entire time. And Seth Rollins sees this. He's like, you gotta help me. You gotta help me. And Murphy did. Murphy did help him. He factored into the finish. They ended up putting Big Show through a table. All four of AOP, Rollins, and Murphy, they all work together. And so the heels end up picking up the win. We now have a new faction. The hero of this show is Seth Rollins, Buddy Murphy, and AOP. They don't have a name yet. I know a lot of people are coming up with their own names. I don't really shit what they call them. I like the idea of Buddy Murphy being part of this faction. Because it puts Buddy Murphy finally in a firm role on this show as he belongs to now. He has a purpose. He's going to be part of what is the de facto top heel faction now on Monday Night Raw. And hopefully he'll get some rub. Let's say Rollins is feuding with a Samoa Joe or a Kevin Owens. That's probably going to be the number one program on the show. Buddy Murphy is now going to be attached to it. So all of this may end up helping to get AOP over. It may help to get Buddy Murphy over. Of course, Buddy Murphy has to start winning some matches. At some point, he's got to win. But I like this. I think this is a good move for his career. And with this new Rollins group now, I realize that we've got a lot of heel staples right now going on in pro wrestling. We've got the Rollins group, whatever they end up calling themselves. We've got Undisputed Era. We've got the Inner Circle in AEW. We've got the Dark Order. We've got the Nightmare Collective. And the NWA now getting all this strictly business. I'm sure I'm missing a few. What about the Villain Enterprises, Ring of Honor, and David Heels anymore? I feel like they would be baby faces. New Japan's got a whole bunch of different factions. New Japan's in faction continues. Chaos, Bullet Club, or Suzuki-gu. A lot of factions. They feel like mostly heel factions. SmackDown on Fox from Greensboro, North Carolina, over 1,600 votes so far. The poll's still open. 49% thumbs up, 51% thumbs down, so nearly dead even. John Morrison's first WWE match was 2011 here on this show with Big E, and it was a singles win with Starship Pain, which barely connected. Not being generous and saying. Even at Lucha Underground, he wasn't calling it Starship Pain, it was blending to the end of the world. He called the movie in there. It rarely connected. Like once I remember a match against Rey Mysterio, but nailed it perfectly. It's just one of his moves. Like he looks good in his life because he's making all of these wacky motion. But as a finisher, it sucks. It is a terrible finishing maneuver because he rarely ever connects with it. It just does not look devastating in the slightest. Then again, I'll have the people come at me and say, oh yeah, well, his elbow was devastating. There's no connection going on. The Usos beat the Revival on commentary. They're pushing out a losing streak angle for Dash and Dawson, which is always deft. In the back, they said, unless WWE starts to change, we may have to make a change as well. So a little tease that they may be on their way out. I know they've been filing a whole bunch of trademarks of late. I stand by my prediction from last week. I think in the end, they end up staying in the company. It could be a Marty Scurll type situation. Not that they would give the book to the Revival and let them book the territory, so to speak. They're just going to blow them away with a deal. They don't want them going anywhere. At some point, you offer a good enough deal that's hard to turn down. You give them a lot of money, maybe some extra time off, some kind of incentive. The personal Vince McMahon guarantee that they will bolster the tag team division, whatever it is. I feel like that would be interesting. McMahon and Sonya backstage. And Sonya Deville was getting ready for her match against Alexa Bliss. And she said to Mandy, hey, do you think that Otis would want to be in my corner? And Mandy said, why would Otis want to be in your corner? You already got me. And without saying so, what Sonya was implying here is that she now realizes what Mandy is doing. She's using Otis. Otis came out during her match last week and helped her. Okay.
They're not like other students, so we're not like other schools. Fusion Academy is a school that changes everything. Changes the class size to one designed around their differences. Changes their curriculum to fit their interests. Changes what school and their future can look like. But the biggest change you'll see is in them. Fusion Academy, now enrolling grades 6 through 12. Find a campus near you at fusionacademy.com.
So she was kind of hoping that Mandy could get Otis to do the same for her. And Mandy is playing this off like basically, I don't know what you're talking about. He's a sweet guy, he's a nice guy. So again, they're little subtle hints of and maybe Otis will come in the end. Maybe Mandy is so offended by this situation that she's just using the guy that it drives a wedge between her and Sonya Deville. So Mandy is in Sonya's corner. Out in the middle of this match walks Heavy Machinery. They're out the aisle. And Mandy tries to climb up to the top rope at one point to interfere. Nikki Cross, who was in Alexa's corner, she gets up on the apron, shoves Mandy off. And Mandy goes flying backwards as she lands with the waiting arms of Otis. His facial expressions here probably would constitute sexual harassment in most companies. I thought this was great. The look on his face, the look on Mandy's face, she didn't mind it at all. She had a big smile on her face. But it provided a distraction to Sonya Deville, so Alexa was runner up in it. Again, that's going to cause problems. I'm certain of it. But just the way the story is progressing, I like it. It's still the most enjoyable thing on the show. We We have Bobby Roode and Roman Reigns. A tables match where Bobby Roode would win. Baron Corbin and big stipulation for his match with Roman. At the Royal Rumble, Roman wins the instead. And he's setting up for a spear. Corbin distracts Roman. Super kick by Dolph. They're all beating down Roman Reigns. They got him laid out on the announce table outside. All of a sudden, out of the Usos, they get stereo dives. They end up putting Dolph on the announce table instead. The stereo splash. Reigns ends up spearing Bobby Roode through a table that's propped up in the corner for the win. Roman says, at the Royal Rumble, I challenge you to a Falls Count Anywhere match. One thing I'll say about this, even though this match is completely and utterly unnecessary. As stipulations go, this was the best one they could have picked. You're going to be in a baseball stadium. If they really want to take advantage of the stipulations, these guys are going to crawl all over Minute Maid Park, maybe down into the clubhouse, certain areas of the stadium. I think that could actually be a lot of fun. But they've got to make use of their surroundings. You know, that if they can do that, I think this match might actually be a little fun. But I can't say that it makes me that much excited to see this match. This week's show is sponsored by Manscaped. #1 in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family tools. New year, new me, new balls. If you've not yet made your New Year's resolution, here's one for you. Take care of your junk this year. Manscaped makes things to do just that by redesigning the electric trimmer, making accidents stick the best. You've felt that pain before, I'm sure. You probably screamed or shrieked. People rushed into the room, your wife, your girlfriend, your mom. What's wrong? I heard screaming. You don't want to answer that question. It's embarrassing. Now you don't have to. Manscaped uses special skin-safe technology that prevents static from happening when you use their Lawnmower 2.0. You don't want to use that same trimmer on your face that you use for the rest of your body. That's just nasty. Manscaped also has the crop preserver intention all deodorant and moisture. And the crop revival. Right now, get 20% off it. Free shipping with code SALMONSTER at manscaped.com. Start the new year off the right way by using the best tools in the job. 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com. And use the code SALMONSTER at checkout for all the things. Chris Van Vliet sat down this past week with David Benoit, son of the late Chris Benoit. Kind of a big get for him. This was the first time that David has really sat down for a lengthy interview about what happened with his father at the end of his life there, and a bunch of other things as well. I thought that he did an excellent job with this. To give Chris his props, I thought that he handled this perfectly and got a lot more out of David than probably anybody else has. I know he's done some podcast interviews into that nature, but this was really very eye-opening in a lot of ways. A little eye-opening in some kind of disconcerting ways, which I'll get to here in a second, but we got to learn a lot more about him and what he does for a living. For example, I didn't know David Benoit was working in the oil fields up in Canada. And apparently doing very well. I guess working in the oil fields must be very lucrative. No, that's fucking very well for that line of work. But he says that he would give it all up to become a pro wrestler. He's got his gear already made, and he talks about this like it really is his passion in life. He wants to get into the same business that his father was in, that he was a fan of ever since he was a kid. And he's been saying this for a while now. Every time he does some kind of interview, he says he wants to be a wrestler. How many years now have we been hearing this? And I have not seen or heard about him making any real progress whatsoever towards that goal. I'm not even sure if he's actively training him. Outside of him, in the interview you're talking about David Westwood Jr. Plus helping him out a lot and doing some training with him, but I don't know if he's actively training him, going to a school or a camp or anything like that. Really all his craft is about being pro wrestling and can't have a single match. I know he did sign up for one of Lance Storm's classes at his old Storm Wrestling Academy, but he didn't stay very long. And that was probably 6 or 7 years ago. In fact, if I remember correctly, he joined the class and he came to see some of the old class photos right when they were getting started. And I think he was pronouncing instantly, but he didn't stick around very long at all. I don't know what his mindset was, why that happened, or why he pulled himself out of there, or something else happened, but that didn't really go. Clearly, though, he wants to become a wrestler. You can hear it in his voice, you can see it in his face, the words, and everything he says. But I do wonder how much of that is him wanting to follow his father's footsteps and do him proud. He idolizes his father. That's very clearly seen to me. And of course he did. It's his dad. You know, that man that did what he did in 2007 is not the man that he knew. That's not the man that he grew up with. He revered this man, Chris Benoit. He loved him. He claimed during the interview that his father was offered backstage roles as a producer by WWE in 2006. This was during a time where Benoit was away for a few months. He was healing up some injuries. And he said his father turned him down. He wasn't ready to retire yet. He turned him down. He didn't come back to the ring. I think at No Mercy did. Then they talked about the tragedy. And this is where I thought Van Fleet did a good job of navigating it. It didn't come off in a halfway way. So, hey, you know, tell me what happened to you. Your father did what he did. He sort of eased into it. And David at one point said, oh, it's fine. I don't mind talking about this. In fact, I wanted to get this off my chest. It feels good to talk about this and get it so out in the open. So maybe for him it was some kind of therapeutic experience. You know, didn't feel like he was exploiting the situation or anything like that. Chris didn't. So they get into it. And he said at first he thought it was a joke. He was up in Edmonton, where he lived, I think still lives. And his mom got a call from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police telling her to fly down to Georgia. Chris's father went down to David's grandmother. And he went down instead. Since David's mom had two kids to take care of, she couldn't leave, so David's grandfather went down instead as Michael did. So then his mind shifts to the idea that somebody must have broken into the house and killed them. Because now that he realizes this is real, this is not a prank or something like that, he goes, somebody must have broken in. It's been some kind of intruder, maybe a robber or something, and he killed them. That was the second one. I can remember exactly where I was. And I mean, I'm not Ben's son, so I mean, that's a whole other situation. But a lot of wrestling fans and people within wrestling who knew Chris and worked with Chris and were friends with Chris and close people, even like Jericho or Dean Malenko, who knew him going back probably, 15 years, 20 years. Knew where they were when they first heard the news. I knew where I was. I can still remember where I was when I first read the news that Chris Benoit had passed. I feel like that's something a lot of wrestling fans would remember. Like where they were, what you were doing when you heard the news.
They're not like other students, so we're not like other schools. Fusion Academy is a school that changes everything. Changes their class size to one designed around their learning differences. Changes their curriculum to fit their interests. Changes what school and their future can look like. For the biggest change you'll see is in them. Fusion Academy, now enrolling grades 6 through 12. Find a campus near you at fusionacademy.com.
I was getting ready to leave the office. It was almost, 5 o'clock, right after 5 o'clock, I was getting ready to leave. I did one quick check of some wrestling news websites for the 3-hour Raw show that night. So that when 3 hours of Raw was being This was the night that Vince McMahon was going to be eulogized. This was the Vince McMahon funeral, kind of in a morbid, twisted, ironic kind of way, episode of Monday Night Raw. And I see the news on one of these websites. I see the headline that Chris Benoit is dead, and I'm stunned beyond belief. Then I opened the page to read the report, and I saw that not only was Chris Benoit dead, but his whole family was dead. His wife was dead, his 7-year-old son was dead, and my jaw just dropped. In my immediate thought, to hear David talk about how he thought it was an intruder and all that, my immediate thought was carbon monoxide poisoning. They must have been in that house all weekend, and nobody could get a hold of them because there was a carbon monoxide leak. Maybe they didn't have an alarm, and they all passed away. And that would be awful enough if that happened. But obviously not nearly as awful as what really happened that weekend. So these are the kind of thoughts that were running through his head at the time. And he said, he didn't get to see his dad that much, maybe 4 weeks during the year, 2 weeks around Christmas time. The last time they spoke was on Father's Day, which I think was probably, about a week? Less than a week, I think, before the weekend where the incident happened. They were making plans for the summer, for David to come down to visit in Georgia, and everything sounded fine, and he got to tell his dad he loved him, and there's nothing out of the ordinary, nothing abnormal about the conversation or anything like that. And he said after the incident happened, he goes, the news was just nonstop. He said it was either about steroids. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me with this Siri shit again? Really, Siri? Can we not do this again, please? Anyway, he said the news was just nonstop after the incident happened. All people wanted to talk about, all the people on TV, all they wanted to do was talk about steroids and more steroids. He mentioned Nancy Grace, or as I call her, Nancy Disgrace, which is what that woman is. A terrible, vile creature of a human being is Nancy Grace, always will be. He says he couldn't even walk around. He couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't finish school. He was 14 years old or 15 years old. He couldn't finish his finals. He eventually finished high school, but not that year. That's how bad it was. And in reference to all of the conspiracy theories about what might have happened that day, he claims his family had law enforcement investigate Kevin Sullivan after the murders to rule him out as a suspect. I don't think that's how it works. All you law enforcement people listening can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that's quite how it works, where he gets to dictate that or have any control over that. But perhaps in the normal course of their police work, they interviewed Sullivan since he was Nancy's ex-husband. Maybe that would be normal. I don't know. I still shake my head at the people who, all these years later, peddle this conspiracy theory bullshit that Kevin Sullivan was behind it. Kevin Sullivan murdered them all. But it's on the internet. So you're going to have people like that floating around, unfortunately. Floaters, that's what I call them. For a lot of reasons. Floaters is an appropriate word for these people. Planting